So, Isaac, we have officially reached the end of the immersion. Day 5 is in the books, and you went out with an absolute bang today. So, firstly, can you describe your day?
Yeah, it's a bittersweet moment. You know, obviously today was a good day, but it's also the final day. So, yeah, I'll be heading back to London soon. But it's been a good day. Yeah, like you said, came out. The intention was to just have fun. More specifically, to try and get an instant date. Since I had a few, but they were fairly, let's say, relatively short. So today we really wanted to try and get a proper one where I had enough time to really sit down with the girl and have a nice conversation, take her out for a drink or coffee. And so, yeah, I managed to pull that off. And fairly early in the session as well. So, you know, we set aside a couple of hours to, you know, hit the streets and try to get this, result. And, yeah, we were out for probably about, is it fair to say, 30 minutes or so. It's funny because I went in for maybe one approach and then I bailed on quite a few, and I couldn't quite verbalize exactly why I was bailing. Maybe just early jitters and nerves, which is normal. But then, yeah, eventually I thought, all right, screw it, let me just go in. So I went in for one, and then, yeah, I don't think it went anywhere. I had the first one. I think the first one was the pink dress girl. Yeah, the pink top girl. She was like an American girl. And yeah, we had a nice conversation actually. Yeah, and to be fair, in my head I was thinking, oh, I've already got the challenge in the bag. I mean, she seems pretty down. She just arrived. We were having a nice flirty conversation, but then eventually, yeah, she was busy. She was having coffee with her friend, and I was about to set up maybe something later for tonight before I leave tomorrow, but yeah, she wasn't really invested at that level. So yeah, just wished her a good day and kept it pushing. And then we went down the strip, came back up. Eventually we got to the square, and then we got to the square, and then I saw, well, actually Ephraim pointed out a girl in I think she was wearing white. And so it's funny because yesterday I got blown out in that same area. That's right. Pretty badly as well. Mainly my fault based on technique. But yeah, for this one, I giddied up, got there as quick as possible, approached her. Yeah, proper industry. I was literally standing in the road while she was on the pavement, on the sidewalk. And yeah, we had a nice convo, a brief one to be fair, because she was on her way to work. And it was funny because initially I tried to get her to go for like an instant date, but then of course I found out she was going to work. Then I told her, well, I'm leaving tomorrow night, so I want to take you out tonight. And at first she seemed just slightly hesitant, and then we just kept on talking. And then eventually I told her I'm from London, and then that sort of, maybe she got a bit more interested, and she was like, you know what, take my number and call me after work, and we can meet up then. And I was like, okay, cool. So, got her number. And she just messaged me actually. So we'll see if that progresses into a potential date in the evening. Got back from that, got back to the strip. And then we walked down, and then we got to the end of the strip. And that was when I approached this half Serbian, half Russian girl, but from Germany. And yeah, I felt like for that one, the sparks were they were there quite instantly. It was, the vibe was good. The stop was good. I had to be a little bit assertive and, let's say, bring the temperature down a little bit, because I guess she's not used to being approached, as most guys aren't. So I felt like I had to calm her down a bit, just be, calm and cool and collected. And so, yeah, we got into a conversation. I was very laid back and, I felt like I really held my ground and kept that low, masculine energy in the conversation. So, yeah. And then obviously the intention was to have an instant date. So after chatting for her for about maybe 10 minutes, I said, hey, let's just go get a coffee right now. And she was like, awesome, yeah. So, yeah, we went down to a nearby cafe and, yeah, had an instant date over coffee for about an hour and a half at least. And yeah, that's the longest instant date I've had. So it's great to have that right on the final day. Perfect way to cap it off. And so obviously looking forward, I mean, tonight I potentially have, 2 dates to choose from. Because, I might meet up with the cafe girl. I might meet up with her later tonight as well. So yeah, it's just funny how things can change, especially having had that fairly rough day on day 3. So yeah, pretty successful day. Just finished having some dinner with Ephraim and Joseph, and just having a nice chat with the lads. But yeah, all in all, a great day.
Yeah, I'd say you earned that instant date today, man. All the work, all the effort you've been putting in, all the improvements that you've been making throughout this 5-day immersion. It's funny because on day 3, I mentioned that I almost want guys to take their licks. I almost want guys to have to go through difficulty before getting the reward. And this is exactly what I mean. Because you pushed through that adversity on day 3, you bounced back on day 4, and then you had an even better day on day 5. I see that as whatever universe force rewarding you for your efforts, rewarding you for your action. Yeah, you wanted it to come easier. You wanted it to come faster. Day 2, it made it seem like day 3 was going to be on top of the world. And you hit that brick wall on day 3, but you decided not to quit. You didn't give up. Picked yourself off the pavement time after time after time. And you were rewarded with an instant date on day 5, and now 2 dates to choose from after our soccer match that we go and attend. So it's just so cool. So my first question for you is, now that we have a stark contrast between day 3 and now bouncing back day 4, day 5 even better, my first question to you is, what do you think you did differently on day 3 to day 5 that allowed you to get the ball rolling, allowed you to get some momentum under your belt, and essentially have your first proper instant date where you sat her down at a restaurant/cafe and spoke to her for 90 minutes, flirted, all that?
Honestly, I think it's just having had the rough days and then seeing the progress yesterday. Yeah, this morning I sort of woke up and thought, okay, today's my last day, and let me just hammer home, or let me focus on all the energetic elements we've been talking about for the past 2 days, and so once I had that front of mind, I thought, okay, yeah, again, the same fundamentals, try and find this, trying to find the fun here. Don't take it too seriously. Don't overthink it. Trust in the technique that we've been going over for the past 4 days, and just trust that will sort itself out, because we've been drilling it day by day. And yeah, just show up, just take reps. And if there were some blowouts, then take them on the chin. Don't read into them too much. Don't start bashing yourself. Oh, I've lost the mechanics, like what I did on the 3rd day. And just keep it going. Keep the momentum. Understand that it could change at any moment. And so as a result, having that mentality it just gave me more freedom and leeway to just express myself, and not take it too seriously. I think also just it being the last day, it also gave me that freedom to, you could say, burn it all to the ground and just go for it without much hesitation. Of course, I still bailed a few times before I got the instant date. But again, even that period, it was sort of like, okay, you've bailed, but let me not think about it too much. Let me just, look, we all bail. We bail, and the main thing was, okay, I'm bailing a few times, but let me just get back. Let me get back and eventually take a rep, and it will come. So yeah, just essentially taking off the pressure on my shoulders with day 3 in mind. Because yeah, when you've been through a day like that, you kind of think to yourself, well, it couldn't get much worse than that. And even if it is worse than that, well, I've already been through that, so I can handle it, right? And also, again, even though we were going for instant dates as the objective today, in my mind, I was like, even if I don't get one, I don't really mind. Right? I don't really mind, because I'm coming away from this immersion feeling like I've gained so much that even if I don't get that bonus at the end, I'll still be buzzing. I'll still be really happy and content with my progress. because I know what I came here for. I know what the main objective was. And so when I woke up this morning, I already felt as if I'd gained that, well, the progress and the skill and the mentality and all the principles that I couldn't get on my own, right? So that's why that's probably another reason why it just felt easier to be out there today. So yeah.
So, in my opinion, you've gotten the full cold approach experience during these 5 days. We went from day 1 on top of the world, day 2 somehow better, approaching a 5 set and entertaining them all for a couple of minutes. Day 3, brick wall. Day 4, bounce back. And day 5, you're rewarded with an instant date for all the action that you took. So I'm curious, which day of this immersion was your favorite and why?
Ooh, that's a good question.
You think about it more.
Yeah. Ooh. You know what? It's hard to pick. If I had to pick, I might have to do a tie. So let's start with that. So I'll probably say day 2 and day 3 are tied. Now, day 2, I would give it the edge because of that 5 set. But I might have to give it to day 3, which I know sounds nuts.
I was hoping you said that.
But on reflection, just the tale of 2 halves in that day, with that break in the middle, was monumental. And we've already spoken about it. But yeah, that was a really pivotal moment. And that conversation we had for that hour was really powerful. And even the way I felt after that break, I think I even told you, there was a point where I just did not care about, other people around me. I just had this carefree energy. And actually, even the day after, there's the bounce back of yesterday. A lot of that was because of day 3, right? Because day 3 was rough, for some reason, I had way more energy going into day 4. And so if you think about it, I attribute the success of day 4 and today, day 5, to day 3. So that's why day 3 is my favorite. Not necessarily because it had the best final result, but because in a way it almost prepared me and teed me up for the last 2 days, which have also been really good days. So yeah, day 3 is my favorite. Now, if you asked me on that day, I would have said, hell no, absolutely fucking not. Most of that day was spent with frustration and, being grumpy and having a low mood. But yeah, it's funny what hindsight would do, So yeah, day 3 was certainly my favorite, and that will be one for the books. And I'll always have that in the back of my mind when I'm out in London or when I'm out anywhere, really. Whenever I'm approaching, whenever I'm having a bad day, even if it's not cold approach related, to be fair. Because I think a big reason is I'm quite proud of myself, of how I handled it, and of course a large part of it was because you were there. But yeah, of course you've given me praises for how I handled it, and yeah, after having more days to reflect on it, yeah, I'm really happy with how that day went. So yeah, that's my favorite day.
Yeah, I think day 3 turned you into a man. Yeah. You were already a proper man before you came out here because you put in 600 approaches on your own. Hats off to you. I wasn't able to do anything close to that. So you're already way ahead of where I started, which is impressive in its own right. But just to see the absolute persistence, just to see the resilience being developed in real time, just to see you go from this bubbly Isaac that I saw on day 1 and day 2 to just the complete drop off of emotion where I felt as though I was looking at a guy that was being tortured. And essentially you were being psychologically tortured on day 3. And to give you every out, I remember multiple times, I knew what I was doing, but multiple times I was going, Isaac, if you want to quit, it's okay. I won't think any less of you if you want to just give up here. If you want to just end the session here, let's hit it again tomorrow. Day 4 could always be better. And I was trying to give you every out. I was trying to give you every opportunity to quit, and you just wouldn't take it. And day 3 is what made me respect you more than any other day, more than that 5 set. Yeah, it's easy to feel on top of the world when everything is going your way. But in my opinion, the true mark of a man is how he responds to adversity. And just to watch you navigate that with such grace, feeling so down on yourself, asking me, what happened? What am I doing wrong? I feel like I'm stopping. I feel like I'm smiling. Like, what's going on? And just to be able to look you in the eye and say, nothing, Isaac, nothing is going wrong technically. It all has to do with your energy right now. And I know that doesn't make sense in the moment, but you were able to understand that concept that I think most guys just couldn't even comprehend, especially in that low of a state. And to see you be able to digest what I was saying, I was even thinking, like, if I was in Isaac's position, I'd probably be thinking, shut the fuck, like, why does this guy keep talking to me, man? Shut up. I just want to sit here and pout. Yeah. And just to see you able to be so calm and just really listen and allow my words to really breach into your brain, and just to see you internalize what I was saying and then apply it 1 hour after saying it was just so incredible, so commendable. I mean it, man. I mean, that was one of the most impressive sessions I've ever seen. To see where you started, how high you were on day 2, to how low you got halfway through that day, just to flip it all the way around for the second half and then end with a bang on a 2 set where you roped me into the conversation, like, and not to mention the bounce back on day 4, yeah, the perseverance, and then just to come to day 5, like, this is what I mean. That instant date was your reward. Man, I couldn't give it to you. You got it yourself. And that was so cool to see, man. So I really rate you for that day, for what you went through. And honestly, when I was asking that question, I was hoping you were going to say day 3, because that was my favorite day. That was my favorite day for sure. So my next question then is, if you can just, off the top of your head, just give us things that you learned and how you plan on applying them when you're back in London and you're solo. Obviously, we already have plans on meeting up in a couple of weeks again, but if you can just first things that come to mind, you know, you already done 600 approaches when you came to work with me. Then you showed up 5 days ago and started putting in quality reps, and you started improving every aspect of your approach. So I'm curious, what are some things that are top of mind that you learned during these last 5 days? And then the second part of the question is, how do you plan on applying those learnings in London?
Yeah, so in terms of main learnings, I think the biggest one is energy and the importance of energy, and how energy and vibe will beat technique like 99% of the time, right? So just keeping that in mind when I'm going out is huge, right? And I've really learned that throughout the 5 days, but of course, especially on day 3, on the hardest day. And also, I guess, adding to that, understanding that if you want to improve your energy, then it's, you know, you really have to take a break and sit down and think about what's going on and really evaluate, you know, the inner dialogue that's going on in my mind. Because essentially, when I think about that rough period where my energy was down, it's almost as if everything in my head was negative, but everything in your head was positive and looking more long-term and trying to see the bigger picture, right? So a learning is, okay, obviously you won't be around all the time, but I need to, in a way, almost take a break and instead of outsourcing that to you, have that positive voice in my mind as well. And that in that way, once taking a break and using that, I can actually bring myself back to, let's say, a better state of mind. So yeah, I'd say that was one of the big learnings. Of course, the importance of technique. Technique is still important. Especially conviction and acting on immediacy.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's even just like being with you and you know, having drills where we're doing it as quickly as possible and you're pointing girls out left, right and center. You know, when I was at home, if I compare how long it took me to approach girls in a solo session before I came out here compared to now, I mean, the rate of action is completely different. You know, it might have taken me, let's say, an hour to do 5 approaches, or I don't know, at home. Maybe here it took me half that time, right? And and then also just, I guess, conviction is interesting because I think a lot of it is, like, conviction doesn't just mean the approach itself. Like, it's also to do with how you see yourself and, how you see yourself when you're walking over. And we've talked about, royalty frame, believing that you're the guy, believing that you deserve it, and how that manifests itself in how quickly you walk over to the girl, whether you walk over to her in the first place, what you say when you get there, the language you're using, so these are all, my understanding of conviction and self-belief is it's a lot more, it's a lot stronger, and it has a lot more depth. And so now I understand what it actually means to be fully convicted and how that manifests itself in every part of the approach from literally beginning to end. And then, I touched on it briefly that just there, tepid language, the way we speak. If you really think about it, the success of code approach, a lot of it is based on language. What are we saying? How are we saying it? A lot of it is around words. And I didn't notice the way that I was speaking. It's so funny. You watch yourself on film and you hear yourself with audio and you're like, oh wow, I said that and I was saying it like that. And I'm thinking I'm doing, maybe I'm doing fairly well, but there are clear sticking points that I never would have recognized. All right. And only when you show me and you call it out on film, did I begin to realize, oh, I still have some work to do here. Just because I've done 600 approaches before working with you, it doesn't mean that I have it all figured out. So I guess that's another lesson, right? There's still areas to improve. I'm not the finished product. I never thought I was, but I guess now I have more clarity on where I need to improve. So I won't have to be, running around like a headless chicken, not knowing what to do. I've said it before. When you're out solo, it's really hard to pinpoint what the issue is because you can only think about so many things at once. So now that I have these specific learnings that we've pulled out from all the footage, all the experience, I now have something. I can now learn those specific. I can now deal with those specific issues and fix them going back. So yeah, the language was one of those. And then even just, one of the learnings on day one was something as simple as my smile, right? Like going in with a bit more, with a brighter smile and, trying to disarm the girl a bit more. I didn't notice that until I literally did the first approach. So yeah, even something as seemingly simple as that, but made a big difference, and on that point, actually, it's like, I guess it goes back to energy, right? So when you have low energy, it doesn't occur to you that the energy is manifesting itself in how you're turning up on the approach. So in the same, I just talked about this idea of smiling more and being brighter on the open. In my head, I thought I was smiling, but because you could see that you had the third person perspective, it turns out that my smile, maybe I had a smile initially and then it dropped because I was very nervous. But I didn't notice that until you put it up. So on that point, it's like, your energy, if you're nervous and that nervous energy is fairly intense, then sure, you'll feel it, but you don't actually know how it's you don't know how it's manifesting. So that I guess that's another lesson, right? It's like the energy I have, it's in one way or another, whether I can see it, it is being displayed to the girl when you're approaching her. And so yeah, I guess just trying to get a hold on that and being more aware of it is a big lesson, a big lesson. So yeah, and then in terms of your second part of the question, how do I intend to use this going back to London? It's just, I think I'll go there with a lot more confidence, firstly, because now I've been coached and I know what the fundamentals are. I know what the priorities are. I know what my sticking points are. So when I land, I really want to make sure that I'm not letting that part slip and that I'm focusing on removing tepid language and also assessing my language as I'm having the conversations and of course, understanding my energy, Of course, we've spoken about how Belgrade is a fairly tough place to learn this, but it's also a great place because it's, you know, I guess because it's tough, it's a better place for training and having a full experience. But yeah, when I get back to London, I just want to do more of the same. So I don't think it has to be any more complicated than that. It's just continuing the momentum, of course, still being in touch and, you know, holding myself accountable, and also having you to hold me accountable, even from afar. But yeah, I think ultimately the big thing that I'll probably take back is, you know, I can do this. You know, I really believe I can do this, you know. Even though I had 600 approaches under my belt at the start before I came, a part of me kind of felt, yeah, I've had some success and I've been on a few dates and, you know, I've had one proper happy ending experience, but I knew there was another level. I just knew it. So having now done the immersion, I now believe that I can actually be at that level. Maybe my foot's even slightly tipping in that box. Again, it depends. I don't know how many reps it'll take for me to get to your level, close, or anybody else in this space. But now I just know it's possible, and I have so much more belief going back home. So I'm definitely gonna take that with me, and really use it to spur me into action. And yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's essentially what I'll take back from this whole experience.
Wow. You made so many great points there. And it's really good for me as a coach just to hear back from my student what you learned, because I'm spewing a lot of stuff throughout these last 5 days. And it's interesting to see what sticks and what's the most impactful for you, just really good for my own knowledge. And I'm glad that you pulled so many of these good lessons that we shared together during these last 5 days. So as you know, a lot of guys in this space, like you at one point actually, like me at one point as well, they come across this space, they watch guys on the internet like me, like some of my friends, they watch us do the approach, they watch us go on the dates, and they wonder to themselves, that's cool and all, but could that be me? Could I actually do that? Or is that just completely out of my depth? So I'm curious for you, as somebody who at one point was that guy, who saw the videos, questioned whether or not he could do it, and then eventually did take action, reach out and get coached. So from Isaac's perspective, what advice would you give to guys that are in that place right now, where they come across this content, they have this itch inside them, they know that they can make something happen with this skill set, but they're just a little too scared to take the first step, to book a call, to reach out? What advice would you give to guys that are in that position right now?
Well, firstly, it's funny because you said, you know, there's guys watching who are saying, yeah, it works for them, but does it work for me? And I thought the same thing. And it's so funny because the last 5 days, you know, aside from the direct coaching in the streets and technique and energy, you know, Ephraim and I have been really talking about like our experiences growing up and what we've been through, and, you know, high school and getting into work and, you know, all the things that we've been through in life. And there's so many similarities. It's almost kind of scary. You know, it's so many things that have happened to us, good and bad, that are it's so similar. It's like we literally almost have a carbon copy life. You know, of course there's differences. He's in America, I'm in the UK, but it's almost as if I'm looking at like myself in the mirror. It's just that you're further ahead in the journey, and you've managed to yield a really great dating life as a byproduct of putting in way more reps and of course being coached yourself. So now that I've been here, you know, before I got here, yeah, I still had doubts. You know, I thought, yeah, it's what, you know, I've done X amount of reps, but it isn't working as well as I thought it would, you know, having done that many reps. And of course, knowing what I know now, I should have never had this massive expectation that I would, you know, be out here absolutely killing the streets because I'd done 600 reps, because there's so much more to it than just putting in volume. There are lots of intricacies that you have to focus on. I've just been talking about sticking points that I didn't recognize.
Yeah.
So just, you know, being here and having a light, you know, shown on that's essentially what has allowed me to believe that it's possible, even though I didn't before. So yeah, I would say if you are that guy who's unsure, I'll say first and foremost, I understand, where that comes from. We're all starting from different places, but it is possible, right? It is possible. And obviously Ephraim's a living example of it, but I'm a living example of it as well, right? And you'll be surprised how much can change in 5 days or 3 days. A lot can change. A lot can change. If you're with the right people and you're focusing on the right things, your entire perspective on what's possible and also what you're capable of, it can completely transform. So, and I've really felt that. I mean, there's been points where I've sort of looked at Ephraim and my eyes are sort of like, wow, I just did that. And it's almost been somewhat perplexing to me. And so I would highly encourage anybody who's watching this stuff and really wants to change, their dating life for the better to get in touch. I was hesitant at some points, when I started way back. I thought I could do it on my own. And, I'm glad I got reps in by myself. But at some level, I knew I needed to be coached, right? I play the drums and I've played it for a while. And I got taught by a teacher, right? And I could have learned it by myself and it would have just taken me way longer. So I understood the power of having people around you who can help you, give you feedback, motivate you, pick you up when you're on the ground, because believe me, that's going to happen, right? That is part of this process. So it's really, this skill is difficult enough on your own. I found that. That's why I did 600 reps and still felt the need to get coached. So yeah, I mean, I can't really sing your praises any higher. I mean, obviously I've been watching your content for a really long time, and the content alone really helped me make progress in my journey. But I guess it only took me so far because there was, it's one thing watching content, but it's another thing being surrounded by someone who gets it, somebody who understands it, somebody who's a professional, somebody who's been coached by somebody else who I also admire. It's like, it's sort of a no-brainer. If you're able to do it, then why draw it out and make it hard on yourself, And so I'm so happy that I made this decision to come out. And I was very lucky actually, because your availability was tight. And I just thought to myself, what, it's now or never, man. Just the opportunity is here. Like, let's take it, let's go, and let's see what happens. And yeah, no regrets. I'm super happy. I feel like I've gained so much value, even just being out here with Joseph and meeting other guys and having these conversations. It's, we always talk about it's deeper than day game. I mean, it really is. We've talked about so much. I feel like my brain has been exposed to so many interesting ideas, and I've never been given the license to talk about this stuff freely. So to be here and have that opportunity for 5 days in a row in a new country, exploring a new culture, it's just been nothing short of fun, incredible. And yeah, I'm just super, super happy. So my final word of advice would be reach out if you can, if you're serious about it, and only if you're serious, because it is hard. But I know there's a lot of guys just like me. If I exist, I'm not some unicorn. I'm sure there's lots of guys out there who have fairly similar lives, similar stories, and have similar desires going ahead in the future. So yeah, just do whatever you can to get in touch. And yeah, once you do it, I'm pretty confident you'll never look back with any regrets, and you'll thank yourself in a couple of months or a year's time that you made that decision. So yeah, thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you for that, Isaac. I know a lot of the guys watching are going to really appreciate hearing the perspective of somebody who's just coached. And like I mentioned when we began this video, I really do respect the hell out of you. It's honestly been an absolute pleasure coaching you. And as happy as you are to be coached by me, I'm just as happy to have gotten the opportunity to coach you and guide you through this delicate area of life, because you took everything in stride. You followed instructions exactly how they were laid out. Barely hesitated at all. You showed up every day with the positive, can-do, glass half full attitude, and that's exactly what I'm looking for in a client. So you really are the ideal customer, the ideal client when it comes to learning a skill set as socially difficult as this. And I'm so glad that you were able to make so much progress in these last 5 days. And the best part is this is just the beginning. This is genuinely the beginning of a budding friendship. And we already have plans to meet up again in another country in a month or so. and not to mention for the rest of our lives. So I just can't wait to see where this skill set takes you. I can't wait to see how you get on over the next coming months and years. I can't wait to watch the man that you develop into. And I'm just so glad that you took the chance, you invested into yourself, and you jumped straight into the deep end. You flew out to Belgrade, Serbia, without knowing exactly how this would go. You showed up to that horse statue on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and day 5, and you knocked it out of the park each day. So, yeah, well done. Well done. Yeah, so for those of you watching who are in a similar position to where Isaac was a few days ago even, I would just encourage you to play that last part back a few times. Yeah, really listen to somebody who is only 5 days away from potentially where you are right now, as far as meeting up with me and having an immersion. And yeah, and just really question. I guess just listen to your gut is what all the advice I have for you. Yeah, because I had that same gut instincts, the same one that Isaac had when he saw my availability and he saw the opportunity and he seized it. So many guys are just waiting for an opportunity to fall into their lap. But look, you came across this content for a reason. I don't have any paid ads. I don't share my videos with friends or family. I want the organic algorithm to bring forward the guys who have been looking for this for a very long time. And if you've come across this content, then that is for a reason. So I would just encourage you to just give yourself a shot. Calendly link is in the description, the first link below this video. Book in a call, and we'll see if we're a good fit to work together. Otherwise, that's day 5. That's the immersion, and we've got a soccer game to go to, huh?
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Brother.
Hell yeah.
Fucking awesome.
Hell yeah.
Fucking awesome.
Great wrap-up talk, man. Great wrap-up talk.